This video will take you through French adjectives and how they work. French adjectives can be kind of tricky, so you've got to pay attention, you've got to think about all of the things that are mentioned in this video to get them right. An adjective is a describing word, and I've given you 4 examples here in English. The cat is small, the door is small, the cats are small, the doors are small. You'll notice the red word, small, that describes those things. That's the adjective. And in English, there's no change. They're all exactly the same. There's no change in spelling. Small, 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 small. The thing about French, and any foreign language, any Romance language really, as you can see, these sentences mean exactly the same as what those English sentences mean. Le chat est petit, the cat is small. La porte est petite, the door is small. Les chats sont petits, the cats are small. Les portes sont petites, the doors are small. I'm sure the first thing you've noticed is in each of those 4 sentences, the adjective, the red word, the describing word, has changed its spelling. It's changed its spelling based on the thing that it's describing. So le chat is masculine. That's just your standard adjective you'd find in the dictionary. But la porte starts with la, you know it's feminine. And the standard ending for describing something when it's feminine is to put an E on the end. Les chats, well, that's more than one cat. And we know it's masculine because we can see the le at the top. So les chats, what we've had to do, masculine plural, is add an S. And then les portes, well, the first thing is porte is feminine. We can see that above, la porte. Porte is feminine, so we've had to add an E, but we're talking about more than one. So we've also had to add an S. Those are your standard endings. They're known in French as masculine, feminine, masculine plural, and feminine plural. Those are just fancy names to tell you what category they're from. It's got nothing to do with boy and girl, except when you're describing boys and girls. Every word, every noun in French has a category, and those categories just happen to be called masculine, feminine, and plural. So the green endings here are your standard endings. It'd be really good to take a note of them. Okay, you've made a note. Why don't you pause it here and see if you can do what was done with the word small, changing it to the word big. The word big is grand, but you're going to have 4 different spellings here. The cat is, the door is, the cats are, the doors are. Pause it now, work out what the correct endings were, and you'll be able to check it in just a moment. Did you get it right? Le chat, there was no change to the ending. La porte, it's feminine, so you added an E. Les chats, well, it's masculine and it's plural, so we needed to add an S. And les portes, feminine and plural, so we've had to add an E and an S. Well done if you've got that. Look at this. What do you think the difference is between French and English from these 2 statements? They mean exactly the same thing. The blue pen, le stylo bleu. If you said, in English, the describing word comes before the thing, blue pen, and in French, the describing word comes after the thing you've described, so essentially, pen bleu, that's right. Your French adjectives, most of the time, are going to come after the thing that they're describing. It's still going to have to agree, so you'll notice that it's le stylo, so we haven't had to add any extra E's or S's on the end of the word bleu, on the end of the word blue. So this is a really important point. In French, most describing words come after the thing that they describe. So it's your noun followed by your adjective. Le stylo bleu. Remember, if it was la, if it was, say, the blue door, la porte bleue, you would need an extra E on the end of the word blue because you're describing la porte. This is just an example of how it would be if we change its gender, we change it plural. So le stylo bleu, la table bleue, extra E because it's la table. Les stylos, more than one pen, so it's got an S. And les tables, well, we know table is feminine because it's la above, and we know it's more than one, so we've had to add an E and an S. To summarise, what we've done is we've got the noun, the thing, your adjective comes next, and then your agreement goes on the end of that. What's annoying is that not all adjectives are regular. That means you can't just add an E or add an S or add an ES on the end and make them be correct in French. There are a few rules or patterns that you need to be able to recognise, or that you should recognise, or you could recognise. For example, drôle, which means funny, already ends in an E. When you look it up in the dictionary, it ends in an E. When you put that into feminine, there is no change at all. It already ends in an E. There's no point in adding an extra E. And in plural, all you'll be doing is adding an S. Drôle. Remember, these letters are mostly silent, so it's not going to change how it sounds. Then there's words like boring. Ennuyeux ends EUX in the masculine. If something ends EUX in the masculine, in the feminine, it ends EUSE. 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 The same as a word like good, bon, ends in just an N. The feminine is bonne, adding an extra N and an E. Traditionnel, traditional, it ends in an EL. In the feminine form, traditionnel, ELLE. Masculine for sporty is sportif, ends in an IF, but if it was describing something feminine, it would be sportive. That IF has become IVE. And then the last one is premier. It ends in an ER. And if it ends in an ER in the masculine, in the feminine, it actually changes to première. ERE. That's an E with an accent. RE. Remember your accent on the E, that's actually going backwards. It's not like in the past tense. It's going backwards. So make a note of these patterns because we're going to test you on them in just a second. Take a moment to test yourselves. Here are some adjectives. Moderne, paresseux, meaning lazy. Italien, meaning Italian. Éternel, meaning eternal. Éducatif, meaning educational. And cher, meaning expensive. Here are the masculine forms that I've already given you. Can you work out, can you pause the video and write down what you think the feminine would be? You've got notes from the pattern before, see if you can apply it. Here in purple, I've added the correct endings and the correct spellings for feminine. So moderne ends in an E, there is no change for feminine. Paresseux ends in EUX, in the feminine becomes EUSE. Italien, it ends in an N, so in the feminine, we're double N and E. Éternel ends in EL, in the feminine, ELLE. Educatif, it ends in IF. Educative ends IVE. And finally, cher, expensive, becomes cher, E with an accent, RE. You can see that these patterns are exactly the same as the ones we saw for the words before. So if you've got a note of those patterns, you can remember them and you can apply them in the future. There are some adjectives that are irregular and you just have to learn them. You just have to be able to recognise them. The one I've pointed out is old because its spelling in the feminine becomes quite irregular. You wouldn't expect VIEILLE in English anywhere. Those letters wouldn't look right together, but in French, une vieille maison, an old house, you need to make sure you get that spelling correct. What you might have noticed there as well is that an old house, une vieille maison, the order of the adjectives don't follow that rule we set out at the start. There are actually some adjectives that look and work just like English, and their order in the sentence, they don't come after the thing they describe, they come before. And they're adjectives that fall into 4 categories. It's what's known as the bags adjective: beauty, age, goodness, and size. If you're describing something with one of those 4 qualities, your adjectives are going to come before the thing you describe instead of after, like is normal in French. Here is some examples. Le beau garçon, the beautiful boy. Beautiful obviously describes beauty, so it becomes before the word garçon, before the word boy. La vieille femme, the old woman. Vieille means old, it's describing age, so it comes before the thing that it's describing. Les bons professeurs, bon, good, so it's describing the goodness, how good the good teachers, comes before. You'll notice here that it's plural, so it does need an S on. It's still agreeing with the word professeur, masculine and plural. And then finally, les petites villes, the small cities, that's describing size. And size, the S of bags, those adjectives come before the thing still. You'll notice that petite has an E and an S, feminine, because ville, the word ville, is feminine. And it's more than one, so we need our S. No matter if your adjectives come before or your adjectives come after the thing they describe, they always have to agree. So there's always the possibility for 4 versions of a spelling. So the word beautiful has 4 different ways that it can be spelled, and you need to make sure you pick the correct one. So here's a recap of everything that's been covered in this video. Adjectives, they usually come after the thing they describe. They change their spellings to agree with the thing that they're describing, and that means, are they masculine, are they feminine, are they masculine plural, or are they feminine plural? You can see I've put the standard endings that most adjectives follow underneath. However, there are some irregular adjectives that follow different patterns, and they're things you've just got to commit to memory. For example, things that end EUX, paresseux, lazy, become EUSE in the feminine form, paresseuse. And finally, there are one set of adjectives that come before the thing that they describe in French, and they're what's known as the bags adjectives, when you're describing beauty, age, goodness, and size. Adjectives can be tricky, and you will make mistakes, and you'll forget to do your agreements, or you'll forget about positions. The only way that you'll be able to get these right is to keep practicing and to keep referring to your notes. The one question people always have is, how do I know? How do I know if I have to use masculine, feminine, plural? How do I know any of those 3 categories? Or any of the 4 categories, really? The answer is, a dictionary will always help. Or, if you know what the word is, the word that you're describing, if it starts le, you know it's masculine, and la, you know it's feminine. That's why we always learn vocabulary with these little words in front of them, because it helps us work out the grammar. Think if you have any questions, come to lesson prepared to ask any, and I'm happy to point out, happy to help, but hopefully these notes that you've just made will help you understand and have a reference point for adjectives so that we can keep building on it across the year. Well done, guys.